What's going on? What's going on? It's Lady Dre, and welcome to Healing Session. I hope that you're having an amazing, abundant, prosperous, loving, fulfilling, masterful, harmonious, purposeful day. I hope that this message finds you well. Okay, so for day 2 of DreCember, we are going to talk about one of my favorite things, and it is my children. And so my children, they mean so much to me. And it's interesting because along this healing journey, they have been probably the closest to me that have witnessed the evolution of their mother, right? Even of the woman that I am. And so I really want to dedicate this video to them because, you know, they have seen me at my worst, and they have seen me not even at my best, because my best is yet to come, but they have seen me and just even where I am now, and it's a whole different woman than I was, you know, when I first started my healing journey. And so I really wanted to dedicate this video to them because they have been in the trenches with me. You know, they have been there, they have witnessed things, they have been a part of my journey. They are the reason why I do what I do, why I'm so dedicated to my healing journey, not only because of myself, but because they have allowed me to be in a space to be vulnerable, right? To afford me grace, to understand that nobody's perfect. However, when you are accountable and you do have changed behavior, like, it goes a long ways. It goes a long ways, you know. I had my first daughter when I was 21, and it's interesting because when I had her, you couldn't tell me nothing. Like, you couldn't tell me that I didn't know what I knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought I had all the answers. And I just knew that, you know, she changed my life, and there were just things that I was going to automatically change once she got here, you know. Because prior to her, you know, when I was with her father, yeah, that was just, I was young, you know what I'm saying? I was young, and I didn't have any responsibilities, and we were just doing us. Literally, like, you know what I'm saying? We was up and down the eastern seaboard, like, listen, we was wilding, okay? And so once I had her, it was interesting because I was just like, I know that she's going to need stability in her life, and the reality is that he could not give me stability, you know. He couldn't. You know, as much as I wanted to be with him, and much as I wanted to make things work with him, the reality was that the things that I wanted for her, he could not give, neither one of us, you know. And so I was just determined to make sure that I take care of her, you know. And that was just going to be our new reality, you know. I'm going to take care of her however I need to. And if I have to do it by myself, then I'm going to do it by myself. But it was just, we was going to be stable. We was not going to be moving here and there. We was going to be stable. And so she definitely changed me, or at least shifted my perspective in that I knew that now she had me, you know, she had me, and I was going to be responsible for her, right? And so, but I was still young. And I was still, full of resentment, full of abandonment, anger, you know, just, it was nothing. And if you followed some of my old videos, you know, like, you know, before I started my healing journey, like, it was nothing for me to pop off. It was nothing for me to, you know, go off on somebody. It was, you know, you knew how I felt. And I didn't have no problem letting you know, like, I fought dudes. Like, listen, that was what it was. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so it was just interesting because there was so much healing. There was so much healing that needed to be done, you know. But yeah, I had her, you know. And then when I had my second daughter, I was 25, and me and her father were married. And still at 25, I thought I knew something. You know what I mean? Of course, at 21, I was like, okay, yeah, I know this and that, whatever. But at 25, I was like, oh yeah, I'm grown. You know what I'm saying? I have my own family. You know, I got my own job, my own house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell me nothing. I'm grown. And girl, no, okay. And so that situation was a little bit different because we were together, but we were both just as dysfunctional. We were both just as hurt and you know, thinking that we knew life, and we were young and thinking that we had all the answers, and we didn't. You know, of course, looking back, we didn't. And so it was just interesting because even again, when you think that you have the structure there, that it creates a space where, you know, things are not so bad, or that, you know, the children can't be affected, right? And so yeah, it was just interesting time because even though I was a little bit older and, you know, my circumstances were different, it still didn't change the fact that I was unhealed. I still was feeling away. I still was reactive. I still was, again, full of hurt and betrayal and unhealed aspects of myself, right? That I initially passed down to both of them, right? And of course, some things were passed down to me, but it was just interesting because you don't realize when you have children, right? And I'm talking to the parents, right? You don't realize, like, when you have children, like, just how much you pass down to them, right? Just how much of the hurt and betrayal and the lies and deceit and the, you know, unforgiveness, all that stuff is passed down, right? And they don't deserve that, you know? So what I will say, you know, to people that don't have children, like, be mindful, like, when you want to start the journey of parenthood, because those things, those unhealed versions of yourself can be passed down to your children, you know, and they didn't ask for that. They don't ask for that, you know, they don't deserve that. And as much as society makes it as though, like, yeah, having children is a blessing, because having children is a blessing. I will say that. However, it's a huge responsibility. And if you are not healed within yourself, if there are still some unresolved issues within yourself, like, it will be passed down to your children. And you do not want that, because then when they start growing and they start showing those behaviors and those signs, like, it affects you. It really does affect you. And so I say that because before I started my healing journey, you know, like I said, I was reactive. I would lash out, and not per se at them, but sometimes at them, you know. Sometimes just because somebody pissed me off, like, listen, I was a hollerer. Like, I would scream, I holler, like, loud, very loud. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's so interesting because now, like, I don't even like to even, if I raise my voice now, no. We're not about to do all that. We're not about to do all that. But it took decades, okay? It took years in order for me to even be in a space where even hollering, like, annoys me. If you're talking too loud, it bothers me. It bothers my ears. You know what I'm saying? But this is coming from but also, too, there were times where I was around, but I was around that. As I was growing up, I was around that. You know, my mom was a holler. My sister, like, listen, it was just all loud. Just the reality, you know what I'm saying? And then, so what do you expect when you raise children that are that way? You know what I mean? And so, so it was crazy because, like I said, before I started my healing journey, you don't realize that it's a small window that you can imprint on your children where it literally can affect them for the rest of their life, right? And if you're not aware of it, and they're not aware of it, like, they can grow up to be adults and young adults where those same behaviors are affecting not only their family, but their people around them, you know? So, and granted, when I started my healing journey, my kids were still young. But that doesn't mean that the damage wasn't done. That doesn't mean that the wounds that were passed down were still, you know, not being attended to. You know what I mean? And so I started my healing journey and began to, like, make some changes, like, within my life. Because at first it was me and how I respond, how I move, you know, and really had to heal some areas in my life, you know, the little girl in me, you know, addressing that abandonment, addressing the resentment, addressing the rejection, right? And it took a long time. It took a long time for me to be in a space where I even started noticing it, because it was so many layers, so much I had to, like, heal and work through and go through and address and become aware of, and it was a lot. I'm not even going to sit here to you. It was a lot. And in the midst of that, like, I had to change. There was things that I had to change. There was things I had to work on. There was things that I had to make sure that even if I had missteps along the way when they were growing up, that I was going to be accountable, and I was going to make those changes not only for myself but for them, because I want them to be in a space that even when they decide to have children, that they don't pass that down to their children, right? And so we were always like, okay, listen, we're going to be in a house of healing. Like, that's what it was, you know what I'm saying? And there were certain things that, because I was moving a certain way, they had to move a certain way, right? And that doesn't mean that they wasn't on their own journey of learning and growing and evolving and healing aspects of themselves, right? And so there were times where, you know, we were on the same page. There were times where, you know, we had our moments of disagreements, right? But I knew that I was just, once I started seeing, like, the changes within myself and the things that I wanted to change for myself and how better I wanted for my family, I was just not going to deter from that at no cost. You know what I'm saying? And it was interesting because, you know, there were times where it was kind of like, okay, we all had to show each other some grace. We all had to be able to be in a space where we was learning, unlearning, right? We were all being in a space of realization, right? We were all, even though we were on a journey together, but we were all on our separate journeys of what we had to learn and what we had to grow through and what we had to be able to overcome within ourselves, right? And so I still knew, though, that I was going to make sure that I was going to rectify the things that I did along the way to make sure that they had a better life for themselves, right? And so it was a lot of accountability. It was a lot of accountability. It was a lot of, and some things were hard to hear. Some things was hard to hear, you know? But what always was at the basis, though, was love and truth. Always, regardless of what we went through, how we went through it, love and truth was always at the base. And I wanted that for us because I knew what it was like to not have that. You know what I'm saying? And granted, you know, the way that I moved, even in my unhealed version, it was always make sure I take care of them, you know? Now, did it show up in different ways? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? The tension was always there. However, that sometimes it might not be something that they was ready to receive, or something that they were in a space to understand, right? But mind you, I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still uncovering layers of betrayal, hurt, deceit, lies, rejection, resentment, fear. Like, all these things are still being uncovered as we're learning and as we're growing, right? And it's in real time. And so we're learning this. We're learning this together, right? And I'm just so grateful because they allowed me to be in a space where I was able to do that. And maybe sometimes they did judge me, and because they didn't understand, or they didn't know, or maybe sometimes they didn't judge me at all, and it was just because, okay, this is my mom, and I see that she's working hard to better herself, to better her life, and we see the changes, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's why they stuck in there with me. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that, because so many times it could have been, I don't want to do this no more, or I'm done, or how people leave when times get hard. Or that's been in my experience in my life, you know what I mean? When times get hard, they leave, or they make up excuses as to why they can't be there, or stuff happens, life happens, and I get it, But it's just it to me, I was grateful for them being in my life. Them not only witnessing where I started from where I am now, you know what I mean? And I'm just grateful to God, because legit, like, he kept us and protected us, you know what I'm saying? And the journey was not easy. The journey was not easy, And like I said in a previous video, like, this year has probably been one of the hardest years for me, and for several reasons, but it's been probably one of the hardest years for me, because of the simple fact that there were times in the past where I could move a different way, or I would move a different way. You know what I'm saying? Whether I didn't like the outcome, or whether I didn't like what somebody was doing, or what somebody was saying, I would move a different way. I would act a different way. Whereas this year, literally everything that I have learned over the last, 15 years has been tested this year. Like, everything that I've gone through in the last 15 years, I have went through this year, and I've been tested every which way I possibly can. And I'm even proud of myself for being able to be in a space where it's nothing. There's no feeling like when you get it, you get it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful for. I'm about to turn 44, right? And I look forward to it. I look forward to turning 44. I look forward to just like the new beginnings. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't be in this space if I didn't have the support that I had. And my children are a big proponent of that, because they have supported me. They have worked hard themselves in their own growth and evolution, in their own spirituality, in their own ways, right? And it makes me smile. It makes me feel good to know, like, that even now, as they are young adults, like, we have done some work. And of course, there's still work to do, you know what I mean? but I wouldn't have had it any other way. And I think sometimes as parents, we forget to hold ourselves accountable. We forget to, and I'm speaking even to the Black community. You know, we put so much pressure, especially on our firstborn, we put so much pressure on them. And they're supposed to do this, and they're supposed to know this, and they're supposed to move this way, and they're supposed to do that. And it's like, it's so not fair. It wasn't fair for me. It wasn't fair for me to do it to mine. And, you know, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable for the things that we do and how we move. Because whether you think that they're not watching, they're watching. They're watching everything that you do because they love you and they admire you and they want to be like you. Whether good or bad, you don't know what they pick up. You don't know what they take from that. They watch everything that you do. So even when you think it's the smallest thing, it doesn't matter, or they're not going to pick up on that, or they don't know. They know. They know. And sometimes they may internalize it. Sometimes they may not. You know, it just depends on whichever way they want to go. Because it can be for their good or it can be for their bad. But you have to be mindful of how you move, you know, how you interact, you know, how you encourage, inspire, motivate. Even when you're giving tough love. Everybody doesn't operate like you. And they don't operate like you. So just because it worked for you doesn't mean that it's going to work for them. Just because you was able to handle it and deal with it doesn't mean that they can do that. And it's not even about them being weak. It's not even nothing about them being, you know, less smart or less street. It's not even about that. They have their own journey that they have to work through and learn and grow through and evolve through. And what you're here for is to be able to at least give them the tools to be able to do what they need to do. So I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. No, because even in my moments where I prided myself on being a great mother. Because I knew what it was like not to have one there. So I was going to teach them the game. I was going to let them know what it was. Listen, and it's still, at times, it's not for them to understand or learn. Maybe they have to experience it for themselves. Just maybe. But it's important that you are mindful of how you're moving, because even if you feel like, you know, you being unemotional or you being unresponsive is not going to bother them, you just never know, like, what you're setting into place and what you're setting into motion. And I'm not saying that you can't have your life and that you're not going to go through things, but at least give them the tools to understand that, yes, you're going to go through things in life, but how you respond is huge. How you move after is going to be, it's so important for them to know that just because it happens to you does not mean that you're just at a loss. But how you respond and how you move is going to dictate your character. Because sometimes there can be blessings in disguise. But again, how you move will dictate, like, where you land and where you end up. So I'm grateful for them. I love them. I love them. They have always been my motivation. That's always been the intent. Now, whether the intent was relayed the correct way, I don't know. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the beauty in it is that we've all held each other accountable for not only things that we've done in life, but we love each other enough that where there's not no conditions on the love and the support. But you will be held accountable. And it goes for all of us. And that has been the greatest support from me. And sometimes we think that we can't learn from our children, but I beg to differ. This is what they learn from you, you learn from them. And they have taught me so much about myself. So much. So much. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for them being in a space to allow me to see that and to understand that and to grow from that and to witness it, right? So I just want to encourage you to love on your children. Let them know that they mean something to you. You know, be mindful how you move around them. Because it's only a small window where what you imprint can affect them for the rest of their life. And the thing is, you don't even know what it is. You won't know what it is until it morphs into something where you're just like, what is that? Good or bad? And I'm appreciative for them. And I'm grateful that God allowed me to not only be their mother, but for me to be in a space where I'm able to learn from them and grow and shift my perspective, and be the woman that I am today because of it, right? So I just want to encourage you to not only love on yourself, but love on your children. And if you don't have children yet, listen, please be mindful of just who you have children with. That affects a lot. Whether you think that you might be a superior parent, like it affects them a lot when you just do not think about who you have children with. It affects them because not only do you think that what you're passing down to them, the other parent is passing down stuff to them too. So they're getting a double dosage of just unhealed stuff. So just be mindful, like, who you lay with, who you have children with, you know? And even before you decide to have children, just be in a space where you are healed, where you understand who you are, where you understand, like, the aspects of yourself. Know yourself, love yourself, because it matters. And that changes the trajectory of even just their life. When you love yourself, when you know yourself, when you move different, it changes. You bypass so much other stuff that they ain't even got to deal with when you are right. And that's something that I would have known at 21, even at 25. And 25 is, I mean, I'm about to be 44. Like 25 is young. There was no way at 25, like what I know now. Listen, not even the half. Not even the half. And we're talking about the healed version of myself. Not even the half. At 25, I didn't know nothing. And if that's not your story, then listen, you winning. But there are a lot of people out here that are unhealed, that are walking around at 30, at 40, at 50, at 60, still unhealed and dealing with unresolved issues from their childhood. Some things that were passed down to them from generations before them. That won't even address it. That won't even talk about it, let alone being accountable to say, hey, I did that to you. Because yes, it does hurt. Yes, it is a hard realization. Yes, it can be like difficult to hear, like, you did this to me. Not knowing that somebody did it to you. But it starts with you having that realization and you having that awareness to know that you want better for not only yourself, but the generations after you. And why not start with you? Why not at least do some of the hard work so you know, like, they ain't gotta deal with it. Okay, so I know that was a lot, you know what I'm saying, but I just want to let y'all know, like, listen, that has helped me, like, for real, on my healing journey. They have helped me, and I appreciate them, and I said all that to say I love them, and I'm grateful for them, and I'm grateful for where we are, you know. I'm grateful. So yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and yeah, y'all be easy.